A lot of developers say they know CSS, and technically, they do. They can center a div. They can copy a Flexbox snippet. They can Google a grid layout. But when real projects start breaking, overlapping elements, weird spacing, layouts collapsing, everything suddenly feels fragile. That's because most people learn CSS tricks, not CSS fundamentals. So in this video, I want to talk about the CSS fundamentals that actually matter in real projects, the ones that make your UI predictable, scalable, and way easier to debug. Let's start with the most ignored concept in CSS, box model. If you don't deeply understand how width, height, padding, border, and margin interact, you're basically guessing. By default, when you set width, 300px, that does not include padding and border. So layouts overflow, things don't align, and you start adding random fixes. This is why box sizing, border box, is almost mandatory in real apps. It makes sizing predictable. Not knowing the box model is like trying to design a building without knowing how measurements work. Next up, CSS positioning. Relative, absolute, fixed, sticky. Most devs know the names, but not the rules. Here's the key thing people miss. An absolutely positioned element positions itself relative to the nearest positioned ancestor, not the page. If you forget to add position, relative to the parent, your layout jumps somewhere random, and you start blaming CSS. Sticky elements not sticking? Probably because an ancestor has overflow, hidden. Once you understand positioning rules, these bugs stop feeling random. They become obvious. Next, Flexbox versus grid, and when to use which. Flexbox is one-dimensional. Grid is two-dimensional. The real rule is simpler. If you're aligning items in a row or a column, use Flexbox. If you're designing page-level layout, use grid. Real projects break when everything is built with Flexbox because it was good enough. Grid gives you structure. Flexbox gives you flexibility. Use both, intentionally. Another fundamental most devs underestimate, CSS specificity. This is why people end up writing selectors like page, card, content, title span, or worse, important. Specificity is a scoring system. Inline styles beat IDs. IDs beat classes. Classes beat elements. Once you understand that, CSS becomes predictable. If you don't, your styles turn into a fight you keep losing. A good rule for real projects: avoid IDs for styling. Keep selectors shallow. Let structure do the work. Next, normal flow and document layout. Most CSS issues happen because developers don't understand how elements flow by default. Block elements stack vertically. Inline elements flow horizontally. Margins collapse. Parents don't always wrap children. If you don't understand normal flow, every layout feels like a hack. Modern CSS works best when you work with the flow, not against it. Next big one, overflow handling. Overflow, hidden, is one of the most abused properties in CSS. Yes, it fixes visual bugs, but it also breaks sticky positioning, cuts off shadows, hides focus outlines, creates accessibility issues. In real projects, overflow problems usually mean layout problems, not overflow problems. Fix the root cause, don't hide it. Now let's talk about something advanced but critical: stacking context and z-index. If you've ever set z-index 9999 and it still didn't work, welcome. Z-index only works within the same stacking context. Properties like position, opacity, transforms, and filter can create new stacking contexts. Once you understand that, z-index stops feeling broken. It starts feeling logical. Another thing real projects need: responsive design fundamentals. Not breakpoints everywhere. Instead, flexible layouts, relative units, content-driven sizing. If your layout only works at exact screen widths, it's fragile. Real-world users don't use standard devices. Let the content decide when layouts should change. And finally, CSS architecture matters. You don't need to memorize BEM, OOCSS, or fancy methodologies, but you do need consistent naming, predictable patterns, clear ownership of styles. Messy CSS doesn't fail immediately. It slowly becomes unchangeable. And that's when teams hate touching it. Here's the real takeaway. CSS is not hard, it's unforgiving. When you understand the fundamentals, your UI becomes stable. When you don't, everything feels random. If you want to level up as a front-end dev, stop chasing tricks, master the basics. If this video helped you see CSS differently, hit like. If you want to follow up where I debug a broken real-world layout live, comment CSS debug. And trust me, once CSS clicks, it's actually fun. I'll see you in the next one.